Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy Tactics, South Park: The Fractured Butthole. Seriously though, the South Park games are fantastic. Like, if you haven't played them, play them. Anyway, whatever your introduction to the world of strategy RPG games was, today we are talking about only the best. Here are the top 10 strategy RPG games on the Nintendo Switch. 1. Seal Arbiters Mark. If nothing has quite itched that Final Fantasy Tactics bug since 1997, a remake of which is long overdue, then the directly inspired Seal Arbiters Mark may be your perfect cup of tea. Seal is both story-rich and story-driven, and that story unfolds over the course of 40 different story missions. The protagonist is Kairi, who plays the very specific role of an arbiter. Arbiters were originally established long ago. After a monstrous beast nearly destroyed the world, the first immortals awakened and managed to quell the beast before it was too late. However, there were only a few immortals and so much that needed protecting. Hence, the Arbiters, the protectors of the people. However, Kairi is slowly becoming aware of the corruption that is blighting her organization, and it's up to her to battle against the chaos before the world becomes threatened once more. But this game is so much more than just a great story. You'll also drool over 30 different class options and over 300 unique abilities, detailed customization options for every unit, 240 pieces of equipment ranging from looted treasures to handcrafted weapons, and, of course, the gorgeous hand-drawn world of Seal Arbiters Mark. 2. Wargroove. Wargroove is an absolute delight of a tactical RPG for the Nintendo Switch, and that praise includes its sequel, Wargroove 2. The Wargroove isn't necessarily groundbreaking in its story or gameplay. It gets the most important aspect of a game very, very right. It is so much fun. Clearly inspired by games like Advance Wars, you have different types of units you can recruit and deploy onto the battlefield, each with unique strengths, weaknesses, and techniques for triggering ultra-powerful critical hits. And as the default difficulty is pretty challenging, both installations of the series will give you hours upon hours of satisfying gameplay and a vibrant world brimming with fun characters, unique challenges, and a whole lot of love from the devs. I truly feel like if you're a fan of tactical strategy RPGs, it's impossible not to love these indie gems. 3. Tactics Ogre Reborn. The original Tactics Ogre released on the Super Famicom in 1995 and quickly made a name for itself in Japan. However, Western audiences were a little slower to pick up the title. The game was remade for the PSP in 2010, which helped the title become more beloved and acknowledged in America. Now, we're talking about the remake of the remake, released in 2022. Like its predecessors, Tactics Ogre Reborn features an epic and compelling story, a wide variety of unit classes, endless choices for customizing your units with attacks and skills, and overall a game that many strategy RPG fans consider to be a masterpiece. One of the most notable features about Tactics Ogre is its branching narratives. The choices you make in the game are often extremely difficult, and your choice affects the rest of the story. These are not just pick one and move on to the next dialogue line type of choices. In fact, they may have heart-wrenching, game-changing consequences. It's difficult to fully describe the brilliance of this game, but if you're watching this, I highly recommend you give it a try. 4. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle and Sparks of Hope. I know this is a big tone shift, but honestly, this series is well worth the whiplash. There are 2 Mario plus Rabbids games, Kingdom Battle and Sparks of Hope, and both are equally delightful and playworthy. Featuring the signature Nintendo polish and charm, the games are brimming with humor, fascinating worlds to explore, and a truly childlike sense of wonder, drawn from the game's magic and immersion. The gameplay is relatively simple. You fight against a variety of foes, each with their own unique strengths, weaknesses, abilities, and attacks. It's your job to craft the perfect crew, arm them with the best weapons, and try to finish tactical stages within a given number of turns to earn the best scores. That being said, while the gameplay itself is simple, there are times when the game really asks you to stretch your brain in order to solve puzzles and effectively clear maps. The rewarding thrill of the tactical strategy RPG combined with the nostalgic joy and wonder of Mario & Co., and, of course, the silly antics of the Rabbids, makes for a strategy game you will excitedly devour time and time again. 5. Triangle strategy. Triangle strategy starts slow in the way Herman Melville's classic novel, Moby Dick, also starts slow. Through reveals of new characters, lore, and exposition about the context of the world, you are gradually being primed for a story that is well worth the wait. Triangle strategy has been hailed as a triumph in the strategy RPG genre by many, and it's easy to see why. With countless complex characters, top-tier level design, and a deftly woven saga of political intrigue, many have compared to Game of Thrones, Triangle strategy is an immersive and wholly unforgettable experience. Rather than fighting an eldritch horror or a dragon overlord, in Triangle strategy, your enemy is very much human, and the folly of man is a formidable foe. One wonderfully unique and innovative aspect of Triangle strategy is its branching narrative paths, which echoes games like Tactics Ogre. However, it goes even deeper into the mechanic that lends the title its name. Each choice you make aligns with one of 3 convictions, which could be utility, morality, and/or liberty. These choices will influence the characters who will, and won't, aid your cause, how other characters throughout the story perceive you, and the decisions you are able to make as the story progresses. Triangle strategy is a political intrigue odyssey of epic proportions, and an incredible strategy RPG to pick up on the Nintendo Switch. 6. Divinity Original Sin 2. If you've been subscribed to this channel for any amount of time, you know that Baldur's Gate 3 is my current and likely persistent forever obsession. If you're waiting for the BG3 DLC and don't know how to keep your mind occupied in the meantime, same. Divinity Original Sin 2 may be exactly the distraction you need. Though Divinity and Baldur's Gate are separate series, both are D&D-inspired strategy RPGs full of fascinating lore, colorful casts of characters, romance options, wink wink, character customization, and games absolutely overflowing with the love and detail put into them by their creators. You'll participate in strategic, turn-based combat as you explore the world, meet new friends and foes alike, discover secret treasures, collect weapons and items, loot goblins for the win, and dozens of hours of immersive gameplay you'll never forget. If you need to scratch your BG3 itch, this is the way to do it. And more importantly, many have called Divinity Original Sin 2 a masterpiece in its own right, long before BG3 came along and stole the show. 7. Disgaea 7. When I made this list, it was important for me to try to include a wide variety of strategy RPGs, which is to say I knew right away I had to include a Disgaea game. Disgaea is a distinctly unique tactical strategy RPG, from its anime stylization to its rock-centric soundtrack to its allure to level grinders. My absolute favorite part about Disgaea, and that really separates it from the other games on this list, is it is just so goddamn silly. The plots are goofy, the characters are wacky, and it just isn't a game that takes itself too seriously, like nearly every other game in this genre, let's be honest. It's truly a palate cleanser if you're tired of the somber color schemes and heart-wrenching outcomes so common in other strategy RPGs. But don't think that I'm saying that because it doesn't take itself as seriously, that it isn't as good of a game, because it absolutely is. Particularly in Disgaea 7 versus other installations in the series, you can grind to infinity if you want, but it's a choice. The learning curve is a lot less steep, and though you may need to grind a little to get past a particularly difficult level, you can almost always clear your way through a level with sharp thinking and a solid plan. The world can be dark and scary and upsetting sometimes. When you feel like it's eating away at you, Disgaea 7 is the strategy RPG to put a smile back on your face. 8. Valkyria Chronicles. If you haven't played this one yet, honestly, I want you to pause the video and go buy it right now. There's Valkyria Chronicles, and there's also Valkyria Chronicles 4. They're almost always on sale, and they're both so damn easy to love and immediately lose yourself in. It's difficult to describe Valkyria Chronicles without immediately telling you how unique and just absolutely charming it is. This game is truly one of a kind. From its gorgeous, dreamy, watercolor-inspired art style mixed with effects and fonts taken straight out of a comic book, to its fascinating gameplay, a blend of turn-based tactical strategy and a third-person, real-time first-person shooter, it is truly something you need to experience to really understand, and my gosh, is it ever fun. But you'll fall in love with so much more than the art style and the innovative gameplay. You'll fall in love with the story, set in an alternate timeline World War II. You'll fall in love with the characters, all of whom have individual goals, motivations, and conflicts. Even the minor characters on your squad have fully fleshed out personalities and even their own side quests. More than anything, you'll fall in love with the experience. You'll enjoy every moment of battle preparation, weapon upgrading, team composition, tactical gameplay, and even the anime-esque cutscenes that sometimes drag on a little too long. If you haven't already, do yourself a favor and at the very least, pick up the original, because I think I got mine on the PS5 for like $5. Do it. They're such a treat. 9. XCOM 2. The majority of strategy RPGs seem to be set in either medieval Europe or feudal Japan. XCOM 2 whisks you away to a world of sci-fi that is decidedly void of longswords or katanas. XCOM 2 is a much grittier, high-octane title in this list than any of the other entries. However, it has something in common with many other entries on this list in that many strategy gamers consider it a masterpiece. 2 decades ago, the global government surrendered unconditionally to alien forces, and the organization who offered defense against the alien invasion, the titular XCOM, was ruthlessly annihilated. However, though scattered, surviving XCOM operatives remain, including your team. It is your job to reclaim the world from the invaders by recruiting new operatives, developing strong fighters using a variety of classes with their own skill trees, develop new weaponry and armor upgrades, and make your way through a wide variety of missions and maps to pursue your goals. With dynamic gameplay that demands sharp cunning, decision-making with serious consequences, a wholly immersive single-player narrative, and constant, heart-racing tension that manipulates the atmosphere of the real world around you, XCOM 2 isn't the best pick for beginner RPG tacticians, but it is a beloved classic for genre veterans. 10. Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I've saved this one for last because it is my absolute favorite. I am a Fire Emblem fangirl through and through, at least to the extent that I've played every game since Awakening, which was the game that originally introduced me to tactical strategy. It has a huge, beautiful, overwhelming place in my heart, and so does every game that followed. And, while Awakening was my favorite installation for a while, everything changed when 3 Houses came along. In fact, even though Fire Emblem Engage came out after the release of 3 Houses, it is still 3 Houses that I recommend to every potential player, especially if you have ADHD like I do, because this is the kind of detail-obsessed game that our brains crave. Why? Because like no other game I've ever played, 3 Houses checks every box. Anime characters and fun romance storylines, rewarding tactical gameplay with multiple difficulty choices, life sim elements like fishing, gardening, cooking, completing side quests, developing relationships, and attending events, classic strategy elements including a wide variety of classes, class progression, skills, abilities, and team composition, and a gorgeous medieval European-esque world brimming with lore and political intrigue. It's truly everything that I adore in a strategy RPG, and it doesn't feel overwhelming for a minute, surprisingly. I've spent countless hours playing this game, and not a single one was wasted. Of every Fire Emblem game, I feel that 3 Houses most authentically portrays the series. From its fun and quirky characters, to its interesting and well-executed map designs, to its duality. The juxtaposition between fishing to catch a certain species so you can make the perfect dish so your favorite characters will fall in love, and the brutal devastation of losing one of your favorite units on permadeath mode. This game will have you cycling through every emotion. And honestly, it has very little to do with the cliche storyline, let's be honest. Because the plot isn't really the story. The plot is you and your connections with the different characters. You and your strategies and builds. You and your surprise and delight and awe. And I guarantee you, if you play Three Houses, you'll know exactly what I mean. That concludes my list of the top 10 strategy RPGs for Nintendo Switch. I originally had closer to 20 on the list, and narrowing it down was super difficult, so if your favorite wasn't on the list and you want to see it, let me know if you'd be interested in a part 2. Be sure to let me know your favorite strategy RPG in the comments, especially if you have any hidden gem recommendations. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Later, friends.